For most people, keeping guns away from your child is probably one of your biggest priorities while you're at home, but not so for some members of the NRA, at the very least in their leadership. We've got a video for you from a speaker at their annual meeting in Kentucky.
How about putting a quick access safe in your kids' room? How many of you have kids? No. How many of you ever had kids? How many of you are where the kids exist? How about putting a gun in a safe in your kids' room? Good idea or bad idea? We have an emotional pushback to that. Here's my position on this. If you're worried that your kid is going to try to break into the safe that is in their bedroom with a gun in it, you have bigger problems than home defense. Right? And think about it. In the middle of the night, if I'm anywhere, I'm in the bathroom, I'm getting a glass of water, I'm in the bedroom, watching TV in the living room, if that alarm goes off and the glass breaks and the dog starts barking, what's the instinct that most people are going to have in regard to, am I going to run across the house to get the gun, or am I going to run over here to help the screaming kid? And if I'm going to go to the kid anyway, and I have an extra gun and an extra safe, why not put it in their closet? Why not mount one of these in the closet, behind a towel or whatever you want, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing, but at age appropriate, they should know it's there. And just like they know there's a gun staged in your room, or there's a gun staged in the kitchen, or wherever it is, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with staging the gun where you're most likely to barricade. If you have to run across the house to check on the kids, there's no reason to take them out of that room and move them to some other room when the bad guy might be wandering around in your house. If you're all there together, if you're all safe, stay there. And if you have the gun in a holster because you grabbed it on the way, great. But if you know there's a gun waiting for you there, you can get to your kids quicker and be evaded, barricaded, and armed in that room.
That's one of the craziest people that we've ever showed a video of speaking.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible.
I know that it's way too popular, way too common for people to see something and then be like, oh, you got to take away their kids. You got to at least look into those kids. Because he literally said, put a gun in the closet, behind a towel or something, out of sight, out of mind. It shouldn't be out of your mind. If you have a gun in your kid's room hidden by a towel, that most secure of containers, maybe keep it in your mind because it's a goddamn gun and it's a child. He said originally he started with a safe. Okay, you're a crazy person. That's a really crazy fucking thing to do, to put a gun safe in a kid's room. But at least it's a safe. A towel isn't a safe. If you wrap it up really tight, Snuggles the bear isn't going to protect the kid from blowing his head off, okay? That's not how it works. He's living in a fucking fantasy. And if something happens, he's probably not the one who's going to suffer. His kid's going to suffer.
Yes.
It happens all the time. At least 265 people under the age of 18 accidentally shot either themselves or someone else just in 2015. America, we're number one, according to a comprehensive study by gun violence prevention group Everytown for Gun Safety. And it could easily be 266 if this jackass doesn't put a thick enough towel over his gun so his kid finds it.
So as you watch that, you should keep in mind that it's the NRA's actually very brilliant strategy at work. And I say brilliant because it's worked, not because I think that it's a smart idea or a good idea. Essentially what the NRA does is it fearmongers, and it puts into the heads of the American people that you are very likely to deal with a home intruder at some point in your life, which is not true, right? And so you're afraid because they're pushing this idea, and that culture of paranoia leads to more and more people getting guns. More and more people get guns, and then what happens? You have more and more incidents of shootings, whether it's mass shootings, accidental shootings, what John just mentioned right now with minors accidentally shooting themselves or other people. And so then you hear about the shootings in the news, and then it fuels that culture of paranoia, and more people buy guns. We have more shootings. I mean, it's essentially brilliant. It's worked. And the gun manufacturers that fund the NRA are becoming tremendously wealthy off this strategy. And all of these Americans who are easily duped by this ridiculous messaging continue buying into it. So that's really the biggest issue that I have with that video, aside from the fact that you're putting kids at danger by pushing this ridiculous notion that you should put guns in their rooms.
I think there's...
Under a towel.
Under a towel.
Under a towel.
Yeah.
You sound irresponsible. It's not just going to leave them. He's going to put a towel on top of it.
Exactly.
Maybe a napkin.
I think there's also a sinister thing they're doing. If you look at it, the NRA, they want to raise up the next generation of gun owners.
Yeah.
Kids, I'm assuming if you have a father or mother who are stupid enough to put a gun in a towel, they're going to tell their kids, hey, just so you know, this is here. I mean, it's very likely that the kid is going to find a gun in his room, or at least know that they have guns all over the house, including his room. To me, not every family, but those families are typically raising their child on gun ownership and the idea of gun ownership.
Normalization.
So I think the NRA is also going after trying to develop a whole new generation. The other thing is, and I'm bringing this up, it's kind of a weird pivot, but I'm bringing this up because the media never did, cable news never did. But if you think Hillary Clinton as president is going to be tough on the NRA, if you think Hillary Clinton as president is going to go after the gun lobby, I bring you to March when she held a fundraiser with an NRA lobbyist. I bring you to 2008 when she sounded like she was running to get the NRA's endorsement against Obama. I'm not trying to attack Hillary Clinton just for the hell of it. I'm just saying Democrats who think that you have a leader or you have leaders that are actually going to back up what they say about going after the NRA, the actions don't match the rhetoric.
Yeah, and just because she ran against Bernie on that doesn't mean that that's going to be one of the things that she fights for, especially during a campaign in which she says, we're not going to get involved in any vigorous arguments with the Republicans. And look, so I just want to respond to, I know there's people who watch these videos who are big fans of guns and they feel like we're unfair. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, you're saying that the towel wouldn't be secure, but how would the kid get the combination? And I know, we're just sort of assuming he could figure it out maybe. But I get parents wanting to keep their kids secure, and many Americans, partially because of the media, partially because of the way they were raised, they think a gun is a shortcut to doing that. But the thing that drives me crazy, and I think drives a lot of liberals crazy, is it's the lengths to which their fantasy goes. So I watch some YouTube channels about guns. There's one, I'm not going to name by name, but he makes really entertaining videos. And while he's doing these reviews, when he's shooting up stuff in his backyard, he'll be talking about the situations you could find yourself in, where it's not just a guy breaks into your house. It's, okay, this is going to have enough accuracy and a big enough clip that if a gang is out there hiding behind trees, you could get all of them. Like, if you are calibrating your security for an armed assault rifle wielding gang of terrorists coming into your house, I don't think you should be in a house. You should be in a nicely padded room, or just in case you go crazy, you won't hurt yourself. But that is considered normal, and every person in that room isn't just rightly concerned about the security of their family, not understanding, of course, that we live in a far safer country than we did 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. They believe that armed gangs of cannibals and terrorists are going to be breaking down their door. And that's fucking crazy. And the NRA is trying to make it crazier for the next generation.
Yeah, look, it's crazy, but again, that's a notion that's not only pushed by the NRA, but it's also pushed by the mainstream media, right? All the fear-mongering of those Muslims, oh, they're out to get you, you gotta be careful, don't accept the Syrian refugees, they're all terrorists. Like, that type of messaging leads to the culture of paranoia that we're currently living in. So every time I have a conversation with someone, by the way, I've been very clear about my thoughts on guns. I don't want to ban guns. I just want common sense legislation, things like background checks, right? Because I know people who are responsible gun owners who are very safe with their guns. Jordan French, who's a member of the show, is, he lives in Arkansas. He hunts for his food, okay? So he needs guns, and I totally accept that, and he's very responsible with it. But also at the same time, a lot of gun owners don't want to have a conversation about gun safety, right? They don't want to have a conversation about legislation that would basically force them to have the safes and have the guns in a safe, okay? If you're not being responsible for your gun, A, you shouldn't be a gun owner, and B, you should face some charges if your kid gets a hand of it or gets a hang of it, gets a hold of it and then uses it to shoot something or someone.
I think something that we should point out is, it's a different topic, but as TYT pushed Democracy Spring, which is finally standing up against the corruption of corporate America and the revolving door, the only way to stop this, the only way to stop the story we just talked about, UCLA, the only way to actually go up against the NRA is twofold. You got to go to Capitol Hill. You got to get outside Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell's office in numbers, not just about corrupt money, but as Cenk said, they're killing our kids. And the second thing is, at the end of the day, young people, forget this election, they need to vote in midterm elections. The only way you're going to really, even not overhaul the system, but get background checks or this and that, is if you get sane people in Congress that aren't bought off by the NRA.